You know, the race to the moon, it felt like the biggest story of the 20th century, right? But what if its most profound legacy wasn't actually in space at all? Well, today we're uncovering the surprising and kind of mind-blowing ripple effects of the space age.
So, when you think about the impact of spaceflight, your mind probably jumps to images just like this one, Earthrise, or, the moon landing itself. These are those iconic moments, the giant leaps for mankind that we all know and remember.
But check out this quote. It suggests that the biggest impacts were often the secondary consequences, the unexpected side effects. The real story here isn't just about the rockets and the astronauts. It's about the incredible, unforeseen ways the space age rippled out and completely reshaped our lives right here on Earth.
So, let's start by looking beyond the rocket's glare. And to really get to the bottom of this hidden legacy, we're not starting with science. Nope, we're starting with politics.
The first big splash, the thing that kicked this whole thing off, was the Cold War. I mean, this was the engine driving the entire enterprise. It was this high-stakes race, not really for scientific discovery, but for global power and showing whose ideology was superior.
This timeline of the early space race, it really reads like a high-stakes duel, doesn't it? From the shock of Sputnik in '57, to the American response, to Kennedy's incredibly audacious goal, every single one of these milestones wasn't just a scientific achievement. It was a powerful broadcast to the entire world, a demonstration of what your nation was capable of.
Now, what's really fascinating is how each side approached this race. The Soviets, they needed these massive rockets to launch their early, really heavy nuclear bombs. So they had a head start in just raw lifting power, which let them focus on these spectacular firsts. The US, on the other hand, often followed up with missions that were, well, technologically better. Like Explorer 1. It was actually ready months before Sputnik, but was delayed specifically to pack it with more valuable scientific instruments.
And it's this intense, incredible pressure to succeed that created the first unexpected ripples. We're talking about accidental revolutions back on Earth. When you're forced to solve impossible problems for spaceflight, you end up creating breakthroughs in fields that have seemingly nothing to do with the stars. Okay, this sounds weird, I know, but believe it or not, the answer completely changed food safety forever. Just think about it for a second. The challenge wasn't just getting to the moon, it was making sure the astronauts stayed perfectly healthy the whole time. A single case of food poisoning up there could have been catastrophic. Mission over.
And here's the kicker. A system designed to protect a handful of astronauts now protects billions of us every single day. See, instead of just testing the food at the end, Pillsbury created a system for NASA to prevent contamination during the process. And that system, called HACCP, became the foundation for all modern food safety around the globe.
But maybe the biggest spin-off from the Apollo program wasn't even a physical product. It was a whole new way of thinking called systems management. Just try to imagine coordinating hundreds of different companies and thousands of moving parts to build something as complex as a rocket. Well, they invented the revolutionary playbook to do it, and that method became the blueprint for managing almost every large-scale project since, from building skyscrapers to developing software.
All right, the next ripple was less about our systems and more about our minds. Because looking down from space didn't just give us new technology, it gave us a completely new perspective on ourselves and our world.
As the Apollo 8 crew orbited the moon, they turned their camera back home, and for the very first time, humanity saw itself. This tiny, fragile, beautiful blue marble just hanging in the endless blackness of space.
This quote from the poet Archibald MacLeish just nails the feeling, doesn't it? That Earthrise photo became so much more than a picture. It became an icon, a powerful, galvanizing symbol for the modern environmental movement, reminding us of our shared, fragile home.
This new perspective also shaped who our heroes were. Space travelers became these powerful national symbols. Here in the US, astronauts were framed as rugged, individualistic pioneers, the next frontier. But decades later in China, their first taikonaut, young Li Wei, was celebrated as the embodiment of collective dedication and national pride. A very different kind of hero.
And that brings us to the final ripple, the one we're all swimming in right now. The technology born from the space race now shapes the very fabric of our connected planet, creating both incredible tools and brand new tensions.
On the one hand, which is amazing, space became a new frontier for cooperation. I mean, think about it. Projects like the International Space Station turned former Cold War rivals into partners, literally floating in space together working on shared scientific goals.
But here's the twist.
Almost every key space technology is dual use. So, the same systems have both civilian and military applications. The GPS that helps you find a coffee shop, it can also guide a missile. The satellites that give us critical climate data, they also conduct surveillance. That is the complicated, messy reality of the space age's legacy.
So you see, what started as a Cold War power play gave us the tools to manage our world, to connect with each other, and to look out into the cosmos with this incredible sense of awe and wonder. It's this complex mix of the practical, the philosophical, and frankly, the perilous.
So that leaves us with a huge question for our time. As private companies now lead the new space race, what new accidental revolutions, what profound shifts in our perspective will emerge from this next chapter? The ripples from that first space age are still being felt, and believe me, the next wave has only just begun.